Federal government sacks 25 ambassadors, heads of foreign missions. Kwara State government demolishes home of the Sarakis over illegal acquisition. In international news, Australian wildfires rage unabated, spurring mass evacuations. And in sport, under-19 cricket team Yellow Greens gear up for Cups cricket ahead of World Cup.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The federal government has disengaged 25 ambassadors and heads of foreign missions. The ambassadors say their letter of disengagement last November did not give them time to complete diplomatic activities and prepare for their return to Nigeria. In a response, the Foreign Affairs Minister Geoffrey Nyama says the affected diplomats were supposed to have left their positions 2 years ago, but that their tenures were extended by President Muhammadu Buhari. Foreign Affairs Ministry spokesman Ferdinand Nwoye calls the ambassadors selfish for demanding more time to pay farewell visits to the presidents of their host countries and carry out their other last-minute functions. The Kwara State government has demolished the family house of former Senate President Bukola Saraki. The building in Ilorin, popularly known as Ile Arugbo, meaning the home for the elderly, was demolished early Thursday after security operatives dispersed protesters, including aged women, within the complex. Kwara State Governor Abdurrahman Abdulrazak announced this decision to revoke the late Olushola Saraki's property. He said the land was illegally acquired by the Sarakis. He said the land was originally designated for the construction of a secretariat and parking lot for the civil service clinic, but was unlawfully allocated to a private firm without any record of payments to the state government. Bukola Saraki had earlier countered the statement, saying his late father lawfully acquired. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has arrested Kaduna former Senator Shehu Sani for allegedly using the name of the acting chairman of the EFCC, Ibrahim Mago, to extort various sums of money from unsuspecting members of the public. EFCC says Sani was accused of alleged extortion and name-dropping. Sani was said to have also demanded $20,000 from a car dealer, Alhaji Sani Dauda, owner of ASD Motors, who paid him $10,000. Sani says the accuser is being used by some politicians to get at him, and the truth would prevail. As part of efforts to totally eradicate criminality from the southwest region, Ekiti Governor Kayode Fayemi has confirmed the joint southwest security outfit, Amotekun, will be inaugurated next Thursday. The 6 Southwest governors say this initiative is to curtail armed banditry, kidnapping and killings in the zone. Governors Oluwarotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State, Ekiti Dr. Kayode Fayemi, Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde, Osun State Governor Adegboyega Oyetola, Ogun State Governor Prince Dapo Abiodun, and Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos have said the outfit would complement the efforts of the regular security agencies in their states. The Central Bank of Nigeria says Nigeria's total foreign exchange figure of $5 billion was based on an analysis of the foreign exchange inflow and outflow through the economy. The country is said to have recorded a foreign exchange deficit of $4 billion in 2016. Reporter Kelechi Emekalam has the details.
The report by Nigeria's Apex Bank shows that between November 2018 and November 2019, the economy recorded foreign exchange inflow of $58.01 billion, while outflows stood at $62.18 billion, and that leaves a deficit of $4.17 billion. There's a lower demand for the local currency, the naira, and higher forex demand, from payments of school fees abroad to medical tourism and foreign business transactions.
What it means is that the power of naira is gradually getting emaciated, and this will have implication on inflation, on also things Nigerians are producing or sending to the rest of the world, export, etc., etc. What you might see in the coming period is, in the long run, it may lead to further devaluation of naira.
Crude oil remains the main source of Nigeria's foreign earnings, but the volatility in global oil prices breeds uncertainties in the country's foreign income. And the World Bank projects that Nigeria may be facing another recession should oil prices go as low as $50 per barrel. So boosting production and exploring other sources of income has become imperative.
There is not so much we want to sell to the rest of the world again at a meaningful price. So if you have that on one hand and our currency is reducing, too much money will be chasing fewer goods. So you are going to have huge inflation. You are going to have inflation level would increase perhaps to 15–20% on one hand, and you are having reduced value of currency on another hand. God forbid, Nigeria may land back in recession and may last longer than it is.
Nigeria is at risk of a possible recession and currency devaluation. Questions arise as to how the country can make its local currency, the naira, more viable. There have been suggestions for government to adopt export promotions and import substitution policies to avert a total breakdown of the economy. That's in addition to increased production, more power generation, investments in infrastructure and economic diversification. All of these, experts say, are some of the ways Nigeria can save itself from facing similar problems in the coming year.
Coming up, African news. 20 persons killed in an attack on IDP camp in the Sudan. And later, international news. Australian wildfires continue to rage, spurring mass evacuations.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to events across Africa. Cameroon President Paul Biya's tough talk that it would crush separatist fighters in the country's two English-speaking regions is receiving mixed reactions in the country. Many had expected a more conciliatory tone from the president in his end-of-the-year message. Biya said the separatist problems in the northwest and southwest regions remain the most urgent issues to be dealt with in the new year. He said the mostly youthful separatist fighters have been brainwashed by Cameroonians in the diaspora and have refused to embrace his many overtures. As a result, he said the military will now show no mercy for those who continue to refuse to surrender and be forgiven. The president has accused Cameroonians in the diaspora of funding violence at home by buying weapons. He said they should be more patriotic by refraining from what he described as the destruction of the country. Opposition leaders have immediately criticized the comment. They say it will be difficult for the country to hold scheduled local elections next month with the current tensions in the English-speaking regions. An international peacekeeping official has reported on Wednesday more than 20 persons were killed after a camp for internally displaced persons was attacked in the Sudan's West Darfur. Spokesman for the Joint African Union United Nations Peacekeeping Mission in Darfur said Krindlin camp, located just east of state's capital El Geneina, was raided on Sunday and Monday after a dispute between Arab and African ethnic groups. Brokering lasting peace in Darfur and other parts of the Sudan is one of the biggest challenges facing military and civilian authorities sharing power after the overthrow of former President Omar al-Bashir last April. Conflicts broke out in Darfur in 2003 after mostly Arab rebels rose up against Khartoum. At least 300,000 persons have been killed and 2.5 million displaced. Zimbabweans celebrated Christmas and New Year like everyone else around the world, or did they? Many Zimbabweans say Christmas 2019 was the worst they have ever experienced. They say prices of most basic commodities are out of reach for many, and quite a number went hungry. Their attention has been focused on the worsening economic crisis in the country and what miracle can reverse the trend. Faraya Nwakutuye has more on the situation there.
There's animated discussion under a tree at a trading center in Mavuku, a Harare suburb, as these small business operators ponder the year ahead.
2019 has given us a precursor of what to expect in 2020. For example, at the beginning of the year, transport used to be $1 to town. Now, it's $17 and $20 to $25 during peak hours, so I expect things to get worse.
A number of stalls at the bazaar are vacant, and it's unclear if their owners will reopen because of the hardships. But Zimbabwe's problems haven't just been economic. A protracted doctor strike which began in September has nearly collapsed the health sector.
There are no drugs at most clinics and hospitals, so they are now referring patients to mission hospitals where it takes days to get treatment, because that's where most people are now turning to.
Mapenda's wish in 2020 is for swift action from the authorities.
They should give doctors and nurses something tangible, not just empty promises, so that they are assured they are getting their money and they have what they need to do their work. Because there is no point in them reporting for duty but not being able to treat anyone. Government should deliver and not just promise.
More doctors are expected back at work in January as negotiations over their wages continue. But there remain other challenges here, including shortages of water and electricity.
There's no quick fix to some of the long-running and deep-rooted challenges that have dogged Zimbabwe, and so that's why many here feel that 2020 could be just as hard, if not tougher, than 2019.
Government has forecast an economic rebound in the year ahead, which, if it does materialize, should give a much-needed reprieve to hard-pressed locals.
In one of Kenya's oldest towns, Lamu, Carom is a game that helps pass time in the evenings. The board game, which has its roots in India, has been categorized as a traditional sport in the country. The players say the game not only helps forge stronger friendships, but also helps them escape vices that could otherwise ruin their lives. Reporter Barry Uru has more.
Walking in Lamu's market square in the evenings, you are bound to meet such a group. At first sight, it might look like a group having a heated discussion, but on a closer look, you realize they are deep into a game. The game is Carom, a board game that originates from India but is not as familiar in most African countries. In Lamu, the game has, however, been categorized as a cultural sport. But just how is the game played?
The game is played by 4 people, 2 on one side and 2 on the other side. The objective of the play is to use a striker disc with a flick of the finger to get all your discs in. Just like when you're playing 8-ball pool, you have to pocket the king, which is a red one in this game, before your opponent does. However, you do that before pocketing your last disc. This is how you clear the game.
In other parts of the world, the game is used competitively, but in this island, it is used as a recreational activity. The Carom players in Lamu have created an association where members pay around $3 for registration. And as they continue to enjoy the game, they hope that they have a chance to take part in future cultural events so as to spread the popularity of the game across the island.
When we return, international news. Australian wildfires rage unabated, spurring mass evacuations. And later, sport. Yellow Greens prepare for Cubs cricket ahead of World Cup.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. On the international front, Australia's wildfires took no time off during the New Year holiday. Tens of thousands of holidaymakers had to flee from seaside towns on the continent's east coast on Thursday ahead of advancing bushfires. Military ships and helicopters have begun rescuing thousands more trapped by the blazes. Extremely high temperatures and high winds have spurred more than 200 fires across the southeastern states of New South Wales and Victoria. Several other towns are also threatened by the blaze. More than 50,000 persons were without power, and some towns had no access to drinking water. Authorities are asking residents and visitors to many towns on the southeast coast to leave as extreme heat is forecast for the weekend. Authorities say the heat would spark more fires. Officials said on Thursday, 8 persons have been killed by wildfires in the eastern states of New South Wales and Victoria since Monday, and 18 are still missing. Thousands had been evacuated from the greater adjoining region of East Gippsland in Victoria, and 5 military helicopters have gone to the south coast to back up firefighters. They are also taking supplies like water and diesel. Australian Defence Force said on Thursday the aircraft will also be used to evacuate the injured, elderly and young persons. The U.S. West Coast and Australian states of New South Wales and Victoria have experienced destructive and highly dangerous wildfires in the last quarter of last year. Australian fires are still raging. Now, American researchers have developed a mobile radar to better monitor wildfires. Reporter Mark New has the details.
When destructive wildfires broke out in October, hundreds of thousands of people were forced to flee to safety. But one team of researchers headed in the other direction, straight toward the fires. They were carrying a one-of-a-kind piece of technology, a mobile Doppler radar. I'm here at San Jose State, and we are with a special piece of equipment that's worth $750,000. And the man who heads this department at the Fire Weather Research Laboratory, Craig Clements.
This is our new mobile Doppler radar, and it's actually able to scan wildfires, clouds, rain, snow. So we can deploy to a wildfire incident and be collecting data within 3 minutes. This allows us to peer into the active wildfire plume, and so we can understand what's happening inside there, because it's such high resolution and it has such fast scanning capability that we can actually see the dynamics in real time.
At San Jose State's Fire and Weather Research Lab, professors and students work on cutting-edge technology, like a mobile atmospheric profiling system that can be carried by a drone. Collecting data while being safe is a constant challenge. With their mobile Doppler radar truck 2 kilometers away from the most destructive wildfire of the past few months, the team was able to capture these incredibly detailed images.
We saw a lot of smoke and ash being rained out because the winds were so heavy. A lot of the fire was just laid down. As the fuels were being ignited, the plume is punching up and things are being lofted.
We were surprised at the fact that we could see all the way through these big plumes and get all the details that we wanted. While radars have been used to study wildfires in the past, this one's special because of its scanning capability and its resolution, and the fact that it's a different wavelength than most weather radars, so it's actually tuned perfectly for the ash associated with wildfire plumes.
Clements hopes the technology will lead to a better understanding of how embers are transported. That could potentially help them prevent fires from spreading and ultimately save lives.
Hong Kong police arrested at least 400 persons on New Year's Day, a pro-democracy march of tens of thousands, which started peacefully turned violent and forced police to fire tear gas to disperse the crowds. Those arrests now bring the figure to 7,000 since protests in the city escalated in June. It was all being held against a bill that would have allowed extradition to mainland China. The bill has now been withdrawn. This development highlights a lack of progress towards ending the unrest. Police told media on Thursday the arrest of more than 400 persons for illegal assembly were made after notifying march organizers and giving demonstrators sufficient time to leave. They said 4 officers were injured during the day. Organizers said more than 1 million protesters took part in the New Year's Day march. Police put the number at 60,000. The protests have evolved into a broad movement pushing for full democracy in the Chinese-ruled city. They are also calling for an independent investigation into complaints of police brutality. Police maintain they have acted with restraints. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he would ask Parliament for protection from prosecution in the 3 corruption cases he faces. Analysts say this is a politically risky move that could delay criminal proceedings against him for months. Netanyahu was indicted in November on charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust over allegations he granted state favors worth hundreds of millions of dollars to Israeli media barons in return for gifts and favorable coverage. He has denied any wrongdoing. He said he's the victims of a witch hunt by the media and the left to oust the popular right-wing leader. Netanyahu said the charges against him were politically motivated. The Prime Minister said he was entitled to Parliament's protection as politically deadlocked as the Israeli Parliament has been. It is highly unlikely it will decide the issue of Netanyahu's immunity request before the next election scheduled for March the 2nd. Netanyahu will need the support of 61 of the 120 legislators for immunity to be granted.
Up next, sports. Under-19 cricket team Yellow Greens prepare for Cups cricket ahead of World Cup. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to sport. The national under-19 cricket team, known as the Yellow Greens, have kicked off preparations for the Cups cricket ahead of their debut at the International Cricket Council Under-19 World Cup. The Cup cricket is a competition for junior teams franchises in South Africa. The tournament would also incorporate Nigeria and Namibia national under-19 teams as they fine-tune their preparations for the Global Youth Cricket Tournament. The Athletics Federation of Nigeria has promised an open, transparent and efficient management of track and field in the new year. Acting President of the Federation, Olamide George, said the Federation has learned from the mistakes made since the current board was inaugurated and will put all supporting structures in place this year to ensure a proper and sustainable growth for the sports ministry.